Okay, so today we will learn about the SQL procedures and UDFS. Okay, so SQL procedures is the extension version of the SQL Server procedure or Oracle procedure. Basically, Snowflake has made this SQL procedure because it by using this, like whoever is coming from the database background, for them it will be very easy to work in Snowflake procedure. Like maybe everybody doesn't know the JavaScript things and all, right? Like me, like other people. I am also not background. I'm not also not coming from those background. I'm also completely database background. So for the resource who are all basically working, have some knowledge in the SQL, have some knowledge in the database. There for them, this type of SQL procedures are very easy for them, right? And this type of SQL procedures is very easy from the JavaScript procedure as well. Basically, JavaScript procedure needs some inbuilt function, inbuilt methods to be utilized, like your create statement, like your execute, next. So these are all the inbuilt method to be utilized by while you are working with a JavaScript procedure. But in case of SQL procedure, you don't need to worry about all those things. It's very simple. Before going into the SQL procedure, first we will understand about the block concept. Okay, so block concept in the what is block? So in procedure we have a block concept. What is that block concept? Block concept is nothing but like uh, there are three part is there of the block. One is declare block, another one is begin, another one is exception, and end. This is what we call block. Okay, now this is entirely we call it as a block. In between declare section, this is the declare section, this is the begin section, this is the exception section. In declare section, what we do, we declare some variable. So let's say you want to declare some variable. So in case of JavaScript procedure, everything we was declaring inside the same double dollar, right? That is what we did. Now here we have we have the separate segment for each type of activity. Now first one is the declare section. Here we will be declaring the variable. Let's say you want to declare a variable. Let's say you want to declare in integer, or let's say in number. Okay, or let's say a string. So this is what the declare section. You are declaring this variable. Okay. Now in the begin section, you are utilizing those variables. You are doing some activity. Let's say n is equal to n 2 multiplied by 10, like that. So you are doing some calculation and assigning value to the n. So basically here you declare that this is as a number, and in the begin section you are doing some activity. That means let's say you are writing your business logic here. Okay, any business logic, whatever you want to do, like basically your loops, ifs, conditions, everything. So basically that you write in the begin block. Okay, so in the begin block, actually it is our main block. Here we write our main activity, whatever business logic we want to implement, that we write in a begin section. Okay, and exception section is basically to handle the exception. Okay, we write here when this exception, then handle like this way. So that is what the exception block. Okay, now in between it, this is what the entire block section. So in JavaScript procedure we handle the exception through the try catch block, right? But here we don't use the try catch block, we use the exception block, right? So now in this entire block session, basically your declare section, this is optional. If you have anything to declare, you can declare. Otherwise, you can remove this one. Okay. Otherwise, you can remove this one. Similarly, if you have anything to handle, then you can handle the exception. Otherwise, you can remove this one also. But begin and block is the mandatory section. This section has to be there, because if you are creating any procedure, that procedure should not be null. So something will be written into the procedure, and that has to be written inside the begin block. So begin block is the mandatory block. Without that, procedure cannot be possible. Okay. Declare section, if anything you have to declare, you can declare. If otherwise, you can remove that block. Exception section is also same. If you have anything to handle as an exception, so you can write that, otherwise you can remove that. But begin and block is the mandatory part. Okay. So let's go here and we will be creating the procedure now. So before creation, I'll select the database here. Let me select for an example, I'm selecting this database. I'm selecting one schema, and after that, I'm creating one procedure. So create or replace procedure name. This is the procedure name. Okay. Create or replace procedure name. If you have any argument, you can take. Otherwise, you can leave it blank. Returns character language SQL. This is exactly same what we did yesterday. After that, as then $. $$ is the starting of the body. Okay. $$ is the starting of the body. $$ is the end of the body. Okay. In between this $$, we will have this three section. One is declare, one is begin, one is exception, if it is needed. In the declare section, we have declared radius of circle as a float. This is a variable that we declared here. Similarly, we have declared area of circle as a float. Okay. Radius of circle as a float, areas of circle as a float, we declared. Now in the begin section, as a radius of circle, we assign 3. This colon is equal to is the assignment operator. Colon is equal to is the assignment operator. So in the radius of circle, we assign 3. After that area of circle, we are calculating is equal to pi r square. So this is the r multiplied by r. So pi r square. So this formula we are keeping, and whatever value will be calculated, that will be assigned here in the area of circle. After that, returning the area of circle. This is how basically the procedure works. So we are doing just simple one calculation. We are doing nothing else. So for an example, this is the procedure. Inside the procedure, in the declare section, you have declared some variable. And after that, in the begin section, what we did the business logic. We written the business logic, how this will be calculated and how it will be returning. So this is how basically we write the SQL procedure. For an example, let me execute this procedure, and here you don't have any issue with the uppercase, lowercase, nothing. Whatever problem we have seen in the JavaScript procedure, those type of problem will not be there. Okay, so here we don't have any argument passing through the procedure. So I'll show you once I pass. So this is the procedure I created. Once I created the procedure, if you simply call the procedure like this way, so you will be able to find out, okay, this is the value that has returned by the area of circle. Okay, so this is the procedure is returning the value. So this is a SQL procedure that we have written. Now language SQL you have to mention here, mandatory, because if you are not mentioning, then Snowflake will not be able to understand. If you delete this one, so let me try. You can see it is created successfully, and also if you call this procedure, it will be giving you output. Why? Because if you are not mentioning anything, it will by default take the SQL procedure. Okay. If you mention here JavaScript, then that is JavaScript. If you are not mentioning anything, that will by default, it will take the SQL procedure. If you write here, show procedures like you can see this is the procedure. If you go on the right side, okay, it is not showing here. 1 second. If you write here, you can see procedures language is SQL. So if you are not writing any language SQL option, then still by default it will be taking the SQL procedures. Okay, so that is the thing. Second thing, so if on top of a block, if you have created a procedure, that we called as a named block. Okay, so this is the block, declare begin end. This is the block, as I told you, this is the block. Now, if I have created a procedure on top of this block, so this block will get a name. So like in my earlier example, the same block, we have created a procedure on top of this block. So that's the reason this block got a name. And we are executing this block by calling that name. So this is the name of the block, right? If you have created a procedure on top of a block, that block is getting a name. And to execute that block, we are calling the block with the name. That is what we are doing. But if you did not create a procedure on top of a block, then that type of block we call as an anonymous block. Those block we call as an anonymous block, and this type of block doesn't have any name. So because they don't have any name, that's the reason you cannot call them with the name. So if you want to execute any block which doesn't have any name, that means no procedure has been created on top of the block, then entire block you have to execute like this way. For an example, you have to use here execute immediate, and after that the entire block you have to write. This is what we call anonymous block. Anonymous block is very important for unit testing. Unit testing in the sense, for an example, let's say you have an entire procedure and there you have added some code, and you don't want to test the entire procedure, you want to test some part of the procedure. Now you can take that part, you can use in a execute immediate clause, and you can execute that entire part which you have written. So without impacting your main procedure steps, just take that part of code and you can execute through the execute immediate. So it will be working, like to test that whether it is working fine or not. For an example, if I execute this, you will be getting that anonymous block. No name is there, but the value is same. Okay, so this is the way basically we execute the anonymous block in Snowflake. So similarly, another way is there. If you declare a session variable, let's say set stmt, it's a session variable. There I mention the entire block I have taken, and after that execute immediate that session variable. So for an example, if you have taken this variable here, and let's set up this variable. Once it is done, after that execute immediate $stmt. Dollar means the value of the stmt. So let's execute. So you will be getting that is also anonymous block, but you will be getting the value like this way. Okay, so this is the way you can execute the anonymous block. Let's say next example, I want to create some table inside the database. Okay, and inside the procedure. So simply you can write here, create or replace procedure name, returns language as $begin. In the begin section, directly write the create table name, create table name. That's it. You don't need to use any inbuilt object. You don't need to use any inbuilt method, nothing. Directly write the create table statement. It will be creating the table, no issue. So for an example, let's execute. And if you call the procedure, the tables will be created. You can see that it's completed. Now if you check the tables has been created. You can see the tables has been created. So it will be created automatically, no issue, and no need to write any supporting things and all. Directly you can write the create table. So it's very easy, right? Similarly, for an example, now I will be fetching the record from the procedure. So whenever my motivation is, whenever I will call the procedure, it will return multiple records. So you can see how simple it is. I will be creating, this is what we call tabular procedure. Tabular procedure is the procedure which is returning a single value. We called as a scalar output. The procedure which is returning a multiple value, we call it as a tabular output. Okay. In the last example, what you've seen, whenever you have called that create table, or if you have called this one, you see you are getting a single value. This is what we call scalar return. Now, similar way, we have a tabular return option. So if you want to find out, if you want to get a multiple value through the procedure, your return statement should be a table type of return. You see, this is a unique example. For an example, let's say create or replace procedure, fetch data. It will be fetching the data from the procedure. Returns table. You have to take the columns, whatever you will be returning through the procedure in a table clause. Let's say returns table. Inside the table, you have mentioned ID, name, city, age, department. So that means these are all the columns value we will be returning. The returning will be kind of a tabular form. Okay, so it will be returning like ID. The output will be looks like an ID, name, city, age, department. So this name, ID, name, so whatever output you will be seeing, that output will be looks like this way. Okay, our language SQL as $. In the declare section, I will be taking one res. This is a variable that I am declaring. Any name you can give. I have given res. Result set. The data type is the result set. In Snowflake, result set data type is actually this type of variable contains the entire query's record set. This type of variable can contain the entire query's record set. Okay, that is the so res result set we have taken. Whenever we will be using this table clause, this result set variable has to be taken. Otherwise, it won't be able to possible to return a query's record set, because result set type variable can contain the entire query's record set. Okay. After that, we are coming to the begin section. We are creating one table first, employee table. Then we are inserting the record into the employee table. After that, select statement, one variable we have taken here as a character, and inside the variable we are writing select ID, name, city, age, department from the employee. So basically from employee table, we are selecting this record, and this string we have assigned to this variable. After that, res, which data type is the result set, colon is equal to execute immediate SQL statement, that means query. Select statement will be executed inside the SQL procedure by using execute immediate clause. It's a dynamic SQL, so execute immediate. Then after that, whatever this variable we are taking, so whatever you have assigned to this variable, that we are taking, and with colon in the sense the value of this select statement. So execute immediate, then colon select statement. Any variable if you want to use here in Snowflake SQL procedure, you have to use with the colon, basically the values of the variable if you want to denote. So colon select statement, basically you are taking. So that means execute immediate colon select statement in the sense whatever string you have defined, that means this, whenever execute immediate colon select statement you will be writing. So basically this select statement will be executed. Okay, and once it is executed and return and record will be stored into the res variable, because res variable is the result set. After that, we are returning the res within the table clause, because our return statement is giving a table clause. Okay, so let's execute this procedure. And after that, whenever I will call the procedure, you can see you will be getting the output like this way. So whatever output you mentioned here, that output should be returned. Okay, remember one thing. For an example here, whatever sequence you have taken, the same sequence you have to return through the query. For an example, let's say, but this column name, if you, let's say, instead of ID, I'm writing ID, I'm writing here employee ID. Okay, instead of name, we are writing here employee name. Instead of city, we are writing here employee city, like that. And now let's say if I now let's say I'm executing this procedure again, and I'm calling the procedure. Now you can see you are getting employee ID, employee name, employee city, like that. So whatever you will be mentioning here, according to that the output will come. Remember one thing, the output name should not, it is, if it is matching or not with the query, that doesn't matter. Here you can see the query is returning ID name, but here output as an employee ID, employee name, that doesn't matter. Okay, but let's say if we have the data type mismatch, let's try. You can see if the data type mismatch is there, then you will be getting error. So that means what you are returning here, whatever you are returning here, the same data type should be matched here, this one also. Here you are returning number in the query, here you are returning string, that will not work. Okay, so that you have to remember. Name doesn't matter, but data type matters. Okay. Now, let's say another procedure I will be creating where I'll show you the block. So different block inside the block. Okay. For an example, you can see one block started here with the begin section. After that, we are creating one table called names. Okay. We are creating a table called names here. After that, another block started. So this is block inside the block. Another block started and it is ending here. So I'm taking it on the right side. Now you can see in this block, declare PV name. In the begin section, PV name is equal to, we are assigning some value here. After that, another block started here. You can see this is the innermost block variable. This is the innermost. This is the innermost block. Now see how basically this block will be working. Now you can see start, it is started here. After that, you can see it created one table. After that, one declare section started, PV underscore name, one variable declared. In this declare section, after that, in the begin section, we have written PV name is equal to middle block variable. After that, another declare section started here, and this variable again we declared here. So PV name will be working as a local variable into this block. So PV name we declared, and again PV name we assigned with the innermost block variable, and after that we are inserting the PV name into the table which I created here. So in this block, the PV name value will be innermost block variable, because in this block, this value has been declared and assigned. And basically in this block, this value will be working as a, this is the value of this variable. Okay, innermost block variable. Insert into v names, insert into names v values this. Whenever we will be inserting the value, PV name value into this table, here, this variable, this value will be inserted. This is the innermost block variable. Whenever it will come out of this variable, here another insert statement is there. Here, the PV name value will be middle block variable. Okay, because in this block, this PV name variable's value is middle block variable. So here it will be inserting middle block variable. Okay. Then after that you have the option to you have another insert statement here, and that insert statement will be inserting the PV name value. But outside of this block, whenever we will come outside of this block, then this here we will be not getting any value, because in this outer block we didn't assign this variable's value, but we are passing a variable here. So that will be taken here inside this PV name. Okay. So let's execute this procedure. And if you see that procedure, so first it will insert the innermost block variable. Then here it will be inserting middle block variable. And then here, whatever value we are passing through argument, that will be inserted. So I'm taking my name here, so that will be inserted. You can see the procedure is completed. Now, if you call the procedure, sorry, if you call the table, you can see first innermost block variable, middle block variable, and then the name, whatever we pass through the argument, that has been inserted. This is what we call local variable for this particular block. This is what we call local variable for this particular block, like that. Okay. Now, for an example, let's say I'm creating one table called student, and in this table, we will be having roll number, name, grade, marks obtained, and total marks. These are all the information we have into the table. And along with that, we are inserting some value into the table. Let me insert. So we are inserting some value into the table. Okay. Now, based on the value, based on the date, based on the marks they have scored, like 367, 340, 285, 250. Based on the marks, we will be declaring that either the student has been passed in the first division, second division, third division, or failed, like that. Okay. So that we will do with the if else test. So for an example, you can see here we are taking create or replace procedure if else test. This is the name of the procedure. Student ID as an argument we are taking. Returns character and all those we are mentioning after the declare section. In the declare section, we have taken one variable called marks obtained. And in the begin section, first we are fetching what marks that student has received. So select marks obtained into this variable from student table where roll number is equal to student ID. Student ID is nothing but whatever we are passing from here. So that student ID we are taking with colon. Because any variable if you want to use that, you have to use in the colon silent, this colon symbol. Okay, so that is what we are doing. So first, let's say we passed here one roll number. That roll number, against that roll number, whatever the marks he has scored, that we are taking into this variable. After that, we are comparing this variable's value. If the colon marks obtained is equal to greater than is equal to 360, then it will be returning you passed with division 1. If this condition does not satisfy, then else if it will come to the next condition. If the marks obtained, whatever marks he has received, if it is to greater than is equal to 320 and less than is equal to 360, then you have passed with division 2. If this both the condition does not satisfy, it will come to the next one. If the marks obtained greater than is equal to 280 and less than is equal to 320, less than 320, then it will return you have passed with division 3. If all of the three conditions does not satisfy, it will come to the else part and it will return failed and end if. So this is the way we write the if else statement inside the SQL procedure. And if you call the procedure with the student ID, you will be getting either failed or first division or second division, whatever it is. So let's say if I give the 3, it will be giving you passed with division 3. Like that, if you check every student ID, you will be getting the different values for here. Okay. So this is the way we implement the if else statement inside the SQL procedure. Now for an example, I am creating one procedure which will be implementing the for loop. So it's very simple. So simply create or replace procedure name, returns. We have taken another table clause, and into the table we have taken a val. So any column name you can mention here, language SQL. Now whenever we are using the table clause, we should be using the result set. First we are creating one table counter here. So it is unwanted, like I want to insert the value into the table. That's the reason I'm creating this table. After that, we are starting a for loop for I in 1 to 10 loop. That means this loop will run for 10 times, 1 to 10. I is the incremental variable, like we know about the incremental variable. So I in 1 to 10 loop means I value first time it will be 1, second time it will be 2, third time it will be 3, like that. From 1 to 10 times this loop will be executed. Okay. For I in 1 to 10 loop, insert into counter values colon I. Okay, insert into counter values colon I. So that means you are inserting the value of I into the counter table. You are inserting the value of I into the counter table. Okay. So for I in 1 to 10 loop, insert into counter values colon I end loop. End loop. So that means you are inserting the value from I to 1 to 10. So this value you are inserting into the counter table. Okay, and these values are basically the i's value you are inserting. After that, again stmt one variable we have taken here, and against that select val from counter. Once 10 times this will execute, and 1 to 10 value will be inserted into this counter. Colon I means I's first value will be 1 and last value will be 10, like 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, like that. After that, once this loop is end, then once the after the 10 times this loop will continue, and after that it will come out of the loop. Then one statement variable we have taken, and they are select val from the counter. Whatever value we inserted into the counter table that we want to fetch. So simply we are using the result set like your earlier example, execute immediate statement, and we are returning through the table clause. So I want to show you that how basically the for loop works. So for I in 1 to 10 loops, in this nothing but I's value will be first time it will be 1, then 1 by 1 it will be incremented 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and that value will be inserted here. You can do some calculation also. Let's say whatever value is I, we will multiply with 10, and that we will insert into the table. That also you can do. For an example, if I execute this procedure, then first time I's value is 1, so that will be multiplied by with 10, and it will be returning 10. Then second value 20, third value 30, fourth value 40, like that. You can see like that it is returning till 100. 10 multiplied by 10, 100. So 10 times the loop will be executed. This is how basically your for loop executes. Now for an example, let's say I want to declare with the cursor. So for an example, let's say I'm taking one table called invoices, and into that table I'm inserting some value. For an example, I will take another one. Let's say I'm inserting some value into the table. Now the table is in this invoices table, I have this 3 value that is inserted. Now by using cursor, we will be adding all these 3 values. Okay. So cursor, what is cursor? Cursor is a kind of temporary memory. Okay. For an example, let's say I'm creating one procedure called calculating invoices. Returns float language SQL as $$ declare. In the declare section, we have taken total price as a float, and after that we have taken C1. After that we have taken C1 as a cursor, right? C1 cursor for select price from the invoice. What does it mean? It means whenever this will be executed, it means there will be a memory created inside the Snowflake, temporary memory, and that memory will contain the value, all the value of the select statement, like this way. And C1 is the name of that memory. That is what we call cursor. Cursor is nothing but it's a temporary memory where basically we assign a select statement with the cursor. We assign select statements with the cursor, and basically this select statement, whenever we are declaring the cursor C1, so that means this memory name will be C1, and there the entire value of the select statement will be stored temporarily, like this way. Why we use the cursor? Let's say you have a condition like, let's say you have a condition where you want to fetch some record by using the query, and for every record you are fetching through the query, you want to do something. You want to do some implementation for every row. Let's say I want to provide 10% salary hike to all the IT people in the organization. Now what I do, I fetch the data from the employee table, joining with the department table, and also joining with the salary table to get the salary. And we are fetching those employees details who are all working in the IT department. And for an example, let's say my condition is whoever is getting salary less than 20,000, I want to give them 10% hike. So according to those conditions, I will be getting all the IT department's people details, and we will be getting whoever is working in a IT and salary is less than 20,000. We are getting those record in a query, and after that, for each record, for each employee in that whatever that query is returning, for each employee of that query return, I want to provide 10% hike. So if this is the condition, in that case we use the cursor. So there is a query, I want to do something with every row of the query. So if that is the scenario, then we can use the cursor. So here also I am doing the same thing. We are selecting the price from the invoices. This is the price. Now each row I will be adding with each other. That is the reason I use the cursor. You can do it normal also, but I just wanted to show you the cursor. So for an example, total price is equal to 0.0 we declared. Initial value we declared 0.0. After that, for loop we are starting here. For I in C1 do. Here instead of record, you can take I, J, K, L, whatever. This is the incremental variable. To understand, I just given record here. For record in C1, C1 means this one, C1 means this one, C1 do. For record in C1 is the cursor. For record in C1 do, what it will do, in the total price variable we will take total price, which is already mentioned at 0.0, plus record dot price. So whenever we will come inside the loop, the first record will be considered for the first time. So record dot price is, record is nothing but this is the record. So record dot price is nothing but the first value. 11.11 will be assigning here. So 0.0 plus 11.11. So total will be 11.11. It will store here. Now again the loop will come because we have a next value here. Now this time the record dot price value will be 22.22. So earlier total price value we inserted as 11.11. So now the total price value is 11.11 plus record dot price is 22.22. So it will add and it will store into the total price. Again the loop will go and the third value will come. Now this value is the now 33.33, and whatever you calculated till now, it will come in a total price. So it will be adding these two number, and once the all record is completed, it will come out of the loop. So hope you understand. For an example, first time this value will be this value will be 0.0 plus 11.11, right? So that means total 11.11 that has been stored here. Now second time whenever the loop will come, the value already, the total price value is already 11.11 plus next value will come 22.22. Okay, 22.22. This value will be stored here. When the third time it will come with this, it will be adding 33.33. Like this way, it will add the total number and it will be returning the total price here. So for every row, you are just calculating. So let's execute, and after that, if you check this one, you will be getting the value of the total output of this number. Okay. So this is the way we use the cursor in SQL procedure. After that, for an example, you want to execute an exception. We want to handle the exception. So in Snowflake, there are two type of Snowflake defined exception is there. One is statement error, one is expression error. Statement error we will be handling if there is an error with the SQL statement. So this exception indicates the error associated with executing a SQL statement. For an example, if you perform an operation on a table which does not exist, the exception is raised. So statement error is nothing but basically if you have any issue with the SQL statement, that is what we call statement error. And expression error is something if you have any expression related error, let's say 0 dividing by 0 or any other expression related error, that will come by the expression error. So for an example, let's say I am creating one procedure here, and inside the procedure I have taken in the declare section, I have taken one variable called stmt_l number. In the begin section, what we are doing, we are deleting the data from the employee table. Okay, we are deleting the data from the employee table. Okay, so employee table is there. I will write here employee_test. This table is not there, right? So you can say delete from employee. So this employee test does not exist. This table does not exist. Okay. So now we are deleting the data from a table which table does not exist in your database. Okay. So let's run this procedure. And while running, it will compile time. It will not throw any error. Okay. Now, whenever we will be calling that procedure, which error we will get? Because we have handled in the exception section when statement error, then return object construct. Object construct is a basically it's a kind of it will be showing your output as an object. I will show you how basically it will be working. Object construct is a basically it will be creating your output as an object. For an example, let's say error code, error type is this one. Okay, then I will write here let's say error code. Okay, then this one, let's say error message. Okay, let's give here one space. You can construct your object like this way. You can construct your object like this way. Okay, then this one is state. Let's say state. Similar way you can do that. Okay, so for an example, when it will be basically statement error, it will the output it will be showing here. So this type of delete from employee test, so we are deleting the data from the employee test, but that doesn't exist. So this type of delete statement will give you basically the error here, because this table does not exist. So which error you will be getting? Statement error. So let's execute the procedure first and see how basically it works. Now, whenever I will be calling this procedure, let's say I call this procedure, you can see error message. You are getting the output like this way, right? So it's an object has been defined. You will be getting the output like this way. Error message is this. Error code is this. Error type is statement error. State is this, like that. So these are all the basically output you are getting as an constructive output, like object related out. The output looks like an object. Directly you can return also, that is not any issue. Let's say you don't want to get all the details, you want to get only the error message. So this SQL ERRM, this is used for the SQL Server, Oracle, everywhere. This will give you the runtime error. So if you don't want to use the object constant and directly you want to return like SQL ERRM, that also you can do. You don't need to give that object. In that case, what will happen? Sorry. In that case, what will happen? Basically, if you write this one, you will be getting the output only the single output you will be getting, not like an object, not like this way. So here all the outputs are coming as an object, but that type of object output you will not get. That is what the difference. Okay. Similar way, let's say I commented this one and I uncomment this one. So this is zero dividing. So if you are dividing by 0, basically you will be getting another error called expression error. So basically any expression related error comes, then that is what we call expression error. So let's execute. Now here you will be getting the expression error. For an example, if you call this procedure, you will be getting the error, but that will be coming as an expression error. So this you have to remember. Okay, so this is how basically we handle the exception inside the procedure. Either that will be expression error, either that will be statement error, or you can handle it through the others. If anything does not belongs from these two, then you can handle from the others. Okay, like that. So basically this is the way generally we write the procedures. Okay, any doubt, any confusion, any queries here? Okay, so this is the way to write the SQL procedure. The same way you can create the SQL functions as well. So UDFS is nothing but user defined function. The function is very simple, like, but there is a difference is there, like there also JavaScript function is there, SQL function is there. The similar way you have to write the JavaScript function, like how we write the JavaScript procedure. Just instead of procedure, you have to use the function. That's it. Nothing else, no changes. That's the reason I'm not repeating these steps. Just if you have seen my JavaScript procedure class, just instead of procedure, we are writing function and entire thing will be same. But there is a restrictions. What is the restrictions? In case of procedure, in JavaScript procedure, you can utilize the SQL statement, but here you can't do. In case of UDFS, that means user defined function, User defined function means the function which is defining by user. If you compare the JavaScript function and SQL function, JavaScript function will be including their only JavaScript related code. That means variable declaration, calculation, if-else statement, returning output. So that should be there in the JavaScript. But you cannot include any SQL part in the JavaScript function. You cannot include any SQL part. No insert, no update, no delete, no select, no alter, nothing. You cannot include any SQL part inside the JavaScript function. Similarly, if you talk about the SQL function, you cannot include any JavaScript code inside the SQL function. That is the difference. Okay. But in case of procedure, that type of problem is not there. Inside the JavaScript procedure, you can include SQL task as well. But here inside the JavaScript function, you cannot include the SQL task. JavaScript function means only you can write, you can declare variable, you can do calculation, you can write the if-else statement. Those part you can cover, but not the SQL part. If you want to write the SQL part, then you have to use the SQL function. So let's understand the SQL function, because JavaScript function we already, the same thing we did in case of procedure also. SQL function is very easy, and most of the time we use the SQL function only. Why? Because this gives you a lot of benefits. For an example, let's say I am creating one sales table. Sales table. Okay, let me select the database. So for an example, let's say I'm creating one sales table. Let me create the sales table here. So the sales table got created, and I'm inserting some value into the sales table. Let me insert. So now in the sales table, we have total 5 records. Now there we have the sales ID, sales product, quantity, current timestamp. That means date we are inserting. That is the basically price and buying price, selling price. All those details are there here in the sales table. Now for an example, let's say I want to find out how much total quantity I have sold in the sales table. So I will be writing select sum of the quantity from sales. This is the query I will be writing, and this query basically will be returning this value, right? So total how much quantity you have sold, that we are returning. Okay. Now, if you want to create a function, and by, let's say I want to return this output by using a function, that means I want to get this output by using a function. So you can create a function like create or replace function name, returns number. Okay. And after that, language SQL is not needed. As I told you, if you are not writing the language SQL part, then that is entirely, it will take the SQL only. Either that is in case of procedure or in case of function, in both the cases. After that, as a $, just your query has to be included. It's very simple. If your query is ready, you can think your function is ready. Why? Because your function, your SQL function will have that query only. Nothing else. No other thing will be there. It will be having only that query. Okay. It will be having only that query. No other thing will be there. Okay. Even we will not include the semicolon also after that query. In the SQL function, you cannot include any JavaScript type of code. No code will be written. Only the SQL query will be written. Okay. Nothing else. No insert, update, delete, nothing. Remember, function cannot contain anything apart from the select statement. You cannot write here insert statement. You cannot write here update statement. You cannot write here delete statement. Only the select statement will be there. Now, if you call that, if you create the function, after that, just call the function, you will be returning the output like this way. Okay. And remember, function can be called through the select statement. Procedure can be called through the call statement. Function can be called through the select statement. This is what we call scalar function. Similar way, you can create the tabular function also. So like tabular function will be having the table clause like we already have seen in the procedure. Create or replace function name, returns table, X and A we have taken as an output, like inside that we have taken. Now I want to find out group wise quantity. Now in the last example, we have taken entire quantity. Now I want to find out product wise quantity. So that's the reason we have written group by product name. Now if I call you can see only the select statement we have included. Now at home, whenever you will be practicing, you just give here semicolon try, and you will be getting the output like how it is giving you the error. So if you try with the semicolon, let's say if I given a semicolon with the function and let's call that, you can see, sorry, not this. You can see you are getting the error, right? So that you have to understand. So you can see without semicolon, it is running properly. So that you have to understand. You cannot mention the semicolon here. Okay, I created the function. Now after that, I will be calling the select star from table inside that. If you are creating the table function, then the function should be called inside the table clause. You can see the table inside. Lot of tabular function we have seen in my classes, right? Validate function, validate pipe load, materialize view maintenance, copy history. A lot of functions we already have seen, and those was inbuilt tabular function. Now this is the tabular function that we create by us. So this is the way we create the tabular function. So the table clause will be there. Inside the table clause, the output will be there. Now, if you call this function in the select statement, you can see you will be getting the value like this way, xa. Whatever you have mentioned in the output, that it will be showing here, xa. Okay. If you want to change it, you can change it. Let's say I want to get it here product. So simply you can change it, and whenever you will be calling that function, you will be getting the output like this way. You can see this is the product. Okay. So this is the way basically the function works. This is the SQL function. Two type of SQL function. One is scalar and one is basically tabular. SQL function is very simple. If your query is ready, just include into the SQL function. That's it. You can pass the parameter also. Let's say here in this function, it is returning all the three products value. Now I want to get only jeans details, not remaining. I can pass the parameter also like this way, product, let's say string. Now here self where product name is equal to, sorry, product name is equal to product, whatever we have taken the value here. Now if I execute, you can see I need to pass the value here, jeans, while calling. So it will be returning only jeans output. So that's it. You can pass the argument also, and that argument you can use in the SQL statement also. So whatever argument you have passed, according to that, the value will be returned. Okay. There is another things you have to, I want to mention here. In case of function, I can have the function overlapping situation. What is that? So basically, with the same name, multiple function can be created if their signature is different. Let's say for an example, this is a JavaScript function I am creating add one, which is having two argument, which will be adding two value, and which is another add one I am creating that is having three argument, which will be adding three numbers. So both the function is different with the same name, but their argument signature is different. In that case, you can create. There will not be any issue. But if their signature is same, then the latest one will be replacing the older one. Okay. So let's execute. You can see both the function has returned. Now if I call that function, it will be returning both the value. You can see three values it is returning 9, two values it is returning 5, like this way. Okay, you want to see what are all the functions you created, you can go through the information schema.functions. So you will be getting all the functions whatever you have created here, and according to that all the things. Functions can be created with the secure and non-secure option. So you can see this functions is created as a all are non-secure option. If like your view function also can be created with the secured option. If you want to create a secure function, you can simply write here create or replace secure keyword. Okay, create or replace secure keyword. So that function will be created as a secured function. And how the secure view works, similar way the secure function also will be working, like their internal code will be hidden from the other user. We already have seen this example with the secure view, how it looks like. So similar way. And already if you have created your function, then you can write this alter statement. Let's say you already by mistake you have created your function with the non-secure way. Now if you want to convert it to secure, you can do it. Alter function name, set secure. If you execute this, then your function will be a secured function. You can see add 3 argument function will be secured function. You can see, let me show you. This is the add one which is having 3 argument, and it will be turned to secure one. Let me show you. You can see this is secure option is yes. So that means this is a secured function. So after that, you can try if you can provide this privilege, usage privilege of this function to some other role and see how basically that function's definition is hidden. Okay, like your secure view. Clear? Any doubt, any question here? So this is what the UDFS, this is what the SQL procedure. Now what you have to do, you have to practice. Otherwise, you won't be able to crack it. Okay. Any question, any doubt? Okay. So we will be having one more session. I don't know, like, let me check that Azure account has been created or not. We will be joining definitely tomorrow, and we'll see. Okay. Fine. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
The meeting has ended. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.